Welcome back to the channel. All right, we are currently looking at December's tier list, and I'm going to do something a little bit different, a little bit unique, and I think it's going to work out exceptionally well in companion with the tier list itself, suggested to me by my buddy Strance. Strance, thank you for the idea. We're going to look at some trending champions. There's going to be some risers and some fallers, champions I and the rankings team have our eye on to potentially be moving up and or down. None of these are necessarily good or bad sides. It's just champions we're keeping aware of as the meta seems to be shifting as new champions and defenders and nodes come into this game. In today's video, in this month's video, we're going to look at 4 champions that appear to be on the rise, especially if things continue in the direction they're going, and 2 that are still excellent champions, but as far as advising ranking them up, and that's what this rankings list is about. This isn't this champion's always better than this one. The game is way too complex for that. This is about if we're advising ranking a champion, here's kind of where we see them. And so a lot of that's going to be dependent on champions that have been put out in the game, especially in the most recent year, and nodes and defenders that we are seeing. All right, we're going to talk about our potential fallers first. And I want to be very clear on this, especially with these 2 in particular. I still believe they are absolutely excellent champions. Most of this has to do with each of them with new champions that have come into the game, nodes, and things like that. So please, if you've ranked them up, take heart. They are still excellent and amazing. The first one we're going to take a look at today is She-Hulk here in the top shelf. I want to go and actually look at her abilities because that's what we're going to talk about. But for her, a lot of this has to do with the rise and what feels like maybe a slight shift. We're talking gradual here. When the January rankings come out, she's probably still going to be in top shelf. But a gradual shift in what I feel like is the relationship between Mystics and Science champions that Kabam seems to slowly be taking us. She's also a difficult one for me. I even just went through and reviewed her abilities again to remind myself, refresh myself of all the amazing things she can do. This is a fantastic champion. And, because it's my advice, the ranking team's advice, she very well may likely stay up in the top shelf. Because if you pull her, there's a champion that's going to do a tremendous amount of things for you. But that being said, I do need to reflect that there does seem to be a shifting relationship, I think, with Science and Mystic. It's shifting, though. It's just kind of in its infancy, if it's even there. And then also what people are actually using and the new champions that are coming into the game. And we're seeing these Science champions like Spider-Man 99, Mr. Negative, who can really handle some serious power control. They need to get set up, but they can really handle it. And that's becoming a bit of an issue. Plus, she's competing with some longer term champions like Captain America Infinity War and Void. So this is a bit of champions already existing, new champions coming in, maybe a slightly shifting relationship and some nodes, but we're going to go through her abilities. And I want to talk about how amazing this champion is. I talked to some of the guys on the rankings team specifically. It's like, look, this is an amazing champion. What is going on? And one of the things they talked about is that there seems to be twofold. One, Iron Patriot said this, amazing champion. You guys got to check out the rankings team. They're all listed in the description of this video. It was saying like, there is a bit of a ramp up with her, and I can see that. And it's like, by the time you get your ramp up going, maybe you're something has gone wrong in the fight, or you're not able to access some of her utility off the special 1 and the special 2. And we'll take a look at that. And I see that. That makes some sense to me. And then Hyena and DLL also brought up the idea of, there seems to be this idea that she's really difficult to play. And I don't think that's accurate. I don't. And I think if you put in some time, you're really going to learn her. We're going to go through her abilities because, one, I am going to be honest. I see the trend. I'm seeing this happen. She's not being used as much. But I also believe that some of you may have her sitting on your roster and you have an absolutely fantastic champion who could be helping you with so much content. All right. Now, I like her Sig ability in particular from when she is fighting against Science champions skill. Science champions. Take a look at this. In particular, this is for Void, all right? With a 30 to 70, this is at a high skill chance with each hit landed to purify a debuff. When you're fighting Void, yeah, you can time your 10-hit combos, but if that's something that's adding a difficulty to a fight, and I know it does for me, especially as we get more and more nodes and things like that, she's going to have a good chance to just purify this for you. It's a big deal. I really like that. Check and see if you've got an Awakened She-Hulk. Now, let's go ahead and just go down her abilities and take a look at this. Now, this is not a full taunt, and I think this might be part of the issue, is how much you can hear me say like, well, it's not quite as good as. So this may be a little bit of like the master of none type of situation, and the package just isn't ending up enough for people to use her. But I think it's important for us to see what she can do. This is basically it's a low-powered taunt. Sharp intellect and overwhelming strength. Oh, very cool. Increasing their chance to launch a special attack by 50% for each of her personal passive fury effects. Two things in there I really want to point out. One, she can get multiple of them. So it's not just 15%. You're going to be able to get this to 30 and 45%. No, it's not the 70, but 45%. That's a big deal. Taunt is an extremely nice debuff. And in this case, it's not a debuff. You don't need to land a debuff. This is just happening from your own fury effects that are actually passive. So you don't even need to worry about them being buffs or anything like that. That is very cool. Immunity to poisons, that's exceptional. I think some people are wanting to run her with suicides for that. For the frequency with which she's throwing her specials, that can start to really work against you because of the recoil damage you'll be taking. But if you're only using her for 2, 3, 4 fights, maybe 4 might be a bit much, and you want to run those and increase her damage or something like that, or the rest of your team is benefiting from it, I think it makes sense. Otherwise, you just have a very nice immunity that you can probably use on some fights and things like that. She's getting these passive fury effects. There's 11% chance, and they're increasing her attack rating by 1,300. Now, this is at rank 4, but that's not nothing, right? Let's take a look at what her attack rating is. 3,700. So a 1,300 attack rating is a significant increase. And again, you can get this up to 2, 3, or 4, not that hard over the course of a fight. When the opponent activates a special attack, right, she's got a bit of a pseudo taunt. It's superior in some ways, inferior in others, but that is going to refresh the duration of all personal fury effects. So play her. Don't go in there and just go ham. You know, if you've got her, don't go in there and just, you know, try to defeat the opponent like as if it's an all or nothing node or something like that. Let them throw their specials. Let them throw their specials. It's going to refresh those fury effects for you, which is not only increasing your attack damage, but again, it's acting like a bit of a taunt for you. That's a really good thing. This is something here that I think is, you know, this is a big deal, folks. She has access to the slow debuff. Now, there was, I think it was 2 seasons ago in War, slow debuff, you didn't really want to use it in situations where you typically would against evaders, but that's not questing. That's not questing. It's just War. So maybe that's why we're just not seeing her in high tier War. A lot of YouTubers do high tier War, so we're just not seeing it in that way. But she also has access to a slow debuff off of her heavy, right? That's really, really nice. If the opponent is unstoppable, this can, oh, that's right. This attack also cannot be interrupted. So she can counter the unstoppable with her heavy while the unstoppable is already on. That's another really, really big deal. And then if an unstoppable effect is removed that way, she's also going to gain a passive fury, which is significantly larger attack increase than the other ones that we talked about. Let's go ahead and go through this just a bit more. Her stun debuffs can last longer. Her personal fury effects can be upgraded based on the size of the opponent. I mean, that's cool, right? I mean, there's fights where that's going to really help, fights where it won't. Then here we go to the special 1, special 2, and let's take a look at the special 3 as well. Special 1, 100% chance to gain a passive fury effect. So there's another way for you to be getting your furies going if you would like to. And then that's going to have a 70% chance to exhaust the opponent, reducing critical damage rating by 8. Okay, that's fine. That's nice, right? That's not a bad thing. But then the opponent's power gain effects are also reduced by 25% for each exhaustion rate on them. Now, that's not as strong as someone else who we're going to talk about later in this, but that's also not a nothing. And that might be also part of why we're not seeing her there, is like we talked about, extremely good at all these things. Sometimes in fights, maybe you need that power control in to be much stronger and much quicker. There's fights you can use her for, guys. And then the special 2, 100% chance to inflict a petrify debuff, 115 potency. That's pretty darn good. And then the special 3, 100% chance to stun for 3.5 seconds. and then you're inflicting this weakness debuff. So I think ultimately, if I have to explain why I'm still even leaving her on here instead of just doing a She-Hulk video, which I was tempted to do, is I do see a little bit of this. It's a little bit of what Iron Patriot said and Hyena and DLL, of that. One, I think there's a little bit of fear on playing her. There's this idea that there's this very high skill cap, because so many of us want to get our Fury buffs up to like 8 or 9 or 10, because, I mean, who doesn't, right? But that might be not how you're best played with her. And then also, as you look at the special 1 and the special 2, the special 1's not providing a tremendous amount of control against the power gain. You're not needing to land quite a few of them, and sometimes in the fight may have already gone sideways for you by the time you can throw these special 1s. But if you're relying on her taunt light mechanic, that can really work out. So I do think there's a trend that maybe she'll be moving down as far as account suggestion, rankability is concerned, as we're getting newer champions like Mr. Negative and Spider-Man 2099. And while I think Captain America and Void I do believe that they're retaining their prominence as this game moves on and evolves. I think she is a fantastic, excellent champion. And if you have her on your roster, read through this and think about, is this going to help me? Is there something unique here? And I'm really sure that you're probably going to struggle to find someone who's got all of this in one ability kit. So she's on here. She's someone I'm watching to see if she's going to be moved down. I still believe, and that's what Super Premium is, excellent champions that are very worthy of rank 3. All right, let's check out the others. The next potential follower that I would like to talk about in today's video is Captain Marvel movie. I know there's some of you who just probably turn this off. And I still think she's amazing. Keep in mind that if she were to move down, it's to Super Premium, whose description lies. If you ask me, should I rank 3 this champion, I'm still going to knee-jerk reaction say yes, and then maybe start to ask you about your roster. But they are very worthy of rank 3. Every champion, even in premium, is a very good champion. So you are Super Premium. But with her, and this kind of happens, we've noticed this happen with Corvus at a point in time, and it feels like it's happening with her. This is why we're early. This is why it's a trending video, folks. As we're starting to see rank 4s, or let's say as R3s are starting to saturate the market, as more and more people are starting to have them, it does feel as though her ability to stay in her, I can't think what the mode is called, and just nuke down a node is lessened. It's decreased because health pools have risen. And we noticed this once with Corvus too. I think it was when R2s were a thing, and then people started rank 3ing him, and he started being able to get through them in his first set of charges, or handle them quickly enough. And I think that's going to be a similar thing with Captain Marvel. I think additionally and I think this is part of what's happening here, we're seeing champions come into the game like Hercules and Null, and they're interacting with armor in a different way. We've even seen Nimrod. Now it's just Nimrod, so I don't want to overstate this. This is trending. This isn't conspiracy theory time. But we're starting to see some interesting stuff with armor breaks. Like Hercules doesn't even do armor break. He just gets stronger. We're seeing Null go at armor breaks in a very, very different way, and he can stack them immensely. And then we're seeing a champion like Nimrod, where you can armor break him, but it doesn't remove the armor up, and your armor break, I think, creates a 100% reduced potency. So I think there's something kind of going on there. I don't want to overstate it with the armor breaks themselves. And then also her relationship with Nick Fury, right? They synergize exceptionally well together, and it's very helpful to Captain Marvel movie and what she does. As the game is shifting more towards 6 stars, as more and more people are ranking up 6 stars, I know that's one of the questions I'm frequently asking is, do you have a Nick Fury? And people say, oh, I have a 5-star. Like, okay, that's good. But we know as we're moving through Act 7, how nice it is to have those 6 stars, and you're starting to invest Sig Stones, Awakening Gems, rank up resources, Tier 5 basic. You know what it takes. It's a lot. And so if you're not ranking up both Captain Marvel movie and Nick Fury, Marvel movie is not as strong. And so I think that's also playing into it, is the amount of resources to rank the full team. It's very similar to what we're seeing with Omega Red, in my opinion. The difference is here that with Omega Red, you're really choosing Omega Red. So if you're using the 5-star Sabretooth, fine. It's fine, right? But with Nick Fury, you're often wanting to use Nick Fury as well, and you're wanting him as a 6-star, and you're wanting him at rank 3 if you can. And so when you're putting your resources into a 6-star, and remember, this is about rank up resource usage. This isn't the best champions. I don't believe in the best champions, okay? But it's about rank up resources, and that's why if she gets moved down, Captain Marvel movie will get moved down. One is because I think of the health pools, and then also because of her traveling partner, who is equally as important to that team typically, and the difficulty of compiling all those resources and pulling both those champions and getting them both awakened and ranking them up. And that's why I could see her, even if she gets moved down, and I'm beginning to think she might, could see her getting moved back up maybe later in this upcoming year, because Nick Fury as a 6-star, Marvel movie as a 6-star, rank up resources, all of those things should be more available, and then she will have the damage to get down those larger health pool opponents. All right, now let's talk about the risers. I think that's always a little bit more fun, right? The first one we got to talk about, because I have the most personal experience with this champion, is Nimrod. Holy cow. The guy just keeps getting better. Now, I think we've fully fleshed out where he's going to excel. We've known it's mutants. You get him awakened, right? If you're curious about Nimrod, check out my videos. Go to the playlist on my channel. There is quite a few going over these various parts. The other thing, though, is that as his SIG grows, he is getting a significant and massive benefit. And I think it's going to take us seeing those high SIG rank 4 Nimrods, and they will be there. They should be there. And additionally, it's not just the mutants that he's now destroying, especially since now that shock that he places off the SB2 is passive. Also, anything that's healing and having having prowess. That's nodes, that's champion abilities. If it's an immediate heal like Buffet, that's not him. But if there's a continuous heal, he's replacing it with a shock, and then it's also helping him ramp up. He has 3 modes, let's call them. There's first 2 are his basic modes. If you can get into that 3rd mode, which is the Eradicate, you have a beast of a champion. And if the champion you're fighting is a mutant and or they are healing or have prowess, he uses them like a currency, basically, to stay in Eradicate. If you're like, dude, what are you talking about? Please check out these videos. I am starting to call him the tech Human Torch, because he dominates mutants like Torch dominates Mystics, and then he dominates healing and prowess like Torch dominates energy damage champions. Now, what will ultimately determine, I think, if Nimrod moves all the way into top shelf, I don't see him being pre-12.0 switch, because he's not turning off nodes. You still need to read them, that sort of thing. But what will ultimately for me determine if he makes it all the way into the top shelf is how much are we seeing healing and prowess. It's more and more present in the game than it's ever been. And that seems like a trend that's continuing, and this is a trending video, right? If that starts coming out more and more, or if we start seeing it like in the next Grandmaster's Gauntlet or the next Summer of Pain, which, kabam, you better be making, those were good, then I definitely believe Nimrod will be moving up. And I additionally think, and again, remember, my rankings are about roster construction. He is providing something that I believe literally no one else has in this class. Now, we're going to talk about another champion who can handle prowess for you, right? But as far as dominant on mutant, dual immune, robot, shock damage, destroys healing and prowess, and he has a synergy coming to the game. We don't know when, we don't know who it's going to be with yet, that will transfer his damage from shock immunity. If the champion, the defender is shock immune, he will instead place an incinerate instead of shock. It's a beast of a champion. Another riser is War Machine, another potential riser. He's already starting to rise up the ranks. And if you're curious about War Machine, my buddy Campo on the rankings team, always check out the rankings team. I watch these channels to get better at the game. I highly suggest them. I cannot suggest them more. I will link Campo's video in the description of this video. Go check it out, War Machine, what he can do, okay? There's a whole playlist. MU8 has a video in there too. Now, it's similar with Nimrod here, but I think War Machine's, I feel like currently his ceiling is maybe more in the super premium, which again, rank 3, go for it, awesome champion. He can absolutely handle the prowess, okay? Off of his SP1. We are aware, we have been for quite a while, that his damage can become immense. I believe it involves going to the SP3, which is always a little bit tricky for me. If it's worth it, I think that's great. But when it's a necessary thing, I'm not as excited about it. But it appears as though War Machine is able to dish out enough damage where he maybe doesn't need that. He has obviously the pre-fights that can help significantly improve himself or other tech champions. But in particular, and I want to be clear about this, it's the presence of prowess and the ability to handle it that for me, I want to keep an eye on. I could see us moving him up to super premium. It may definitely happen in this current war season as we have these new nodes that he appears to be well situated for. And I know everyone's like, well, dude, yeah, it's just high tier war. Great. There is crossover. High tier war often is like a testing place, or we see these things happen and then we see it in questing and vice versa. We see questing and then in high tier war and war. So this isn't just coming out of nowhere. And we've seen plenty of videos of War Machine dealing plenty of damage, handling difficult nodes, the tankiness, literally all the things that could potentially move him. In my opinion, his ceiling is super premium. I don't think we're seeing a top shelf champion. That's my current opinion on him, but I would not be surprised to see him moved up in the rankings in the next month or two. Okay, this one's a little bit of backtracking. Actually, Symbiote Supreme was moved up back into the super premium. You can see the little microphone icon there. I was supposed to talk about him in the December rankings. There were just so many champions to talk about that I kind of forgot. I went over it and a few of you even asked like, hey, Symbiote Supreme moved back up. Much of this has to do with, this is the kind of the ebb and flow that we talk about. I'm going to put this later in the video, so you've already heard this about Captain Marvel movie, where it's not unusual for a champion to move up and down. Some of that, like with Captain Marvel movie, I think is about rank up resources and the power level, basically, that we currently have them at. With Symbiote Supreme, and you'll hear this when we talk about She-Hulk, actually, you probably did. It's with other champions in their own class coming out, or champions that do similar things and then are able to do more. Symbiote Supreme was able to handle these extremely niche things with a lot of buffs, and if they bled. If those things existed, he was like Archangel. Like, that is the champion you want to bring in because he's going to absolutely destroy them. And then we had more and more Mystic champions coming out. I mean, I think except for Magic, it's the whole top shelf of Mystic. Clairvoyant, Diablo, Sorcerer Supreme, Tiger, and then I think Doom have all come out after Symbiote Supreme, if I remember correctly. And they brought some of what Symbiote Supreme could do, and then more. And as a result, the need for his niche, and we've talked about this in the game too, right? There was a point in time you wanted a champion to do everything, then super niche dominant champions came in, and then now we're at this really cool place where it's a little bit of both, and it's about roster construction. Symbiote Supreme also saw a fall off in high tier war for a while. Now we're seeing him have a bit of a comeback, and there was some concern that with high ground, he might not be able to make it work out. DLL did a very cool video. It is war focused, but he talks about Symbiote Supreme and why they're now able to use him, why he's actually very comfortable signing him, that it's not hard to find fights for him. And we're seeing him take out Alliance War bosses, but additionally, and this is what moved him back up, is we started talking too about like Act 6 and how incredibly helpful he was with that. And even with Act 7, if there are buffs, he's a fantastic, fantastic champion for him. So he's moved up to super premium. I wanted to recognize that. I wanted to talk about that so that you could hear why. And I think that's a good spot for him. I think we would need to see another big push, another direction to see him removed, because the fact of the matter is even if it's a niche, even if you're just using him for buffs and to bleed, he's dominant there. And the fact is, a lot of it's also just the armor break. You're not really relying on the bleed, you're relying on the buffs and the armor break. I think he's well positioned. I don't see him moving to the top shelf again. I could see him moving back and forth between premium just on where it's at. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to point that out. That was a trend, and we're kind of talking about it, I guess, in the past or the future. I don't know, but you guys get the point. And then if you've been watching my videos lately, you know how much I love Miguel. Spider-Man 99. This guy is a blast to play and absolutely fantastic. He was originally, I think, considered not a very good champion. I got a lot wrong, the original CCP reviews. Then Strands took him to rank 3, an SSX. They started using him in high tier war. I believe Legacy, Karate Mike saw this. They put out their own videos. I was seeing it. Very pumped up for this guy. I opened so many of the featured crystal trying to get him. I've now got him. I've put out a SIG ability video on him. I do think the SIG is not needed unless you're going to do certain fights, and I think the SIG is an incredibly nice to have on him to provide a synopsis of it. The anti-venom synergy is really important for him for very specific fights where you want the wither debuff on him, on the defender right away. And in fact, you know what? We are going to go ahead and take a look at his abilities. I will see you at Aunt May. We're here at Aunt May. If you're not familiar with this site, you've got to go to it. You see the web address right there in the upper left-hand corner. Go to it and then support its creator. Tremendous website, helpful to all summoners and particularly us YouTubers looking for nodes and synergies and all that stuff. But again, even if I was not doing YouTube, this would be so helpful as a summoner, just looking up abilities and synergies and what they do. All right, so moving into Miguel here, and I think one of the things that's going to happen as I'm playing him more, and I did the SIG ability video, is I recognized, or I believe anyways, that yes, the anti-venom synergy is very helpful for these extremely difficult nodes that honestly, you might not be using him to take anyway, but it allows him to take it. But here's the thing, is I felt like the biggest thing that came out of the signature ability, and I want to point it out here, is that there's the ruptures, right? It's a very nice source of damage for Miguel. That at SIG 200, they go from a 12.24 chance to basically not be consumed, replicate, whatever you want to call it. Basically be persistent. To an 80% chance, which is huge when you're talking about putting up between 8 and 12, 14 ruptures. It's not unusual. In addition, your combat power rate while the opponent is affected by Wither goes up by 25%. I think him at a high SIG takes a champion who's very good without the SIG, very good, but feels flawed. It feels, you've heard me use the term flow. That's basically how a champion's kit comes together. There's champions where like you're just playing them. You're just playing the game. You can focus on the defender. You can focus on the nodes. There's less things for you to remember and think about in a fight. When their flow is really good, you can focus on those difficult things about the fight and not have to focus so much on, okay, now I need to throw the SB1, now I gotta throw the SB2, wait, do I now, 3-hit combo? Right? For me, it's part of what makes Strife an excellent champion, but holds him back because there's so much in there, but you also have to be dominant in how you understand the champion. The SPIG on Spider-Man 99, I think, removes that. Because you're not having to be as nearly concerned about the ruptures. You can just apply them, and there's a good chance they're going to replicate themselves, an 80% chance that they're just going to stay there. They're not going to be consumed, as it says in the SIG ability. Additionally, any sort of combat rate increase, especially as you take him up in rank 2, rank 3, rank 4, right? They get more power, their combo rate anyway, and now you're increasing it by 25%. When you've got the Wither debuff up, you're going to get to your special 1 and your special 2 or your special 3 that much faster. Now, some of you who aren't Miguel experts are like, okay, well, what do the special 1, special 2, and special 3 do? All right, let's take a very quick look at them. So the special 1, thank you, Fluffy Pig Monster, for pointing this out. Always a wealth of information, right? A wealth, is that a thing? Whatever, a lot of information. Special 1 attack. The last 3 hits have a 100% chance to inflict a physical vulnerability debuff, decreasing the physical resistance by 244. Doesn't sound like a lot, but listen, the last 3 hits, you can throw your SB1, you're getting an increased combat power rate anyway, you're applying those, and then your ruptures will burst for even more. So now you've got your ruptures up there. You've got the physical vulnerability defense debuff up there. There's more. You get to the special 2. On activation, inflict a Wither debuff. The Wither debuff reduces ability power rate. So this is like the power gain from Hyperion, kinetic transference from nodes, things like that. This is not the combat power rate. They will still get that from you hitting them, okay? But usually it's the big one that you're worried about is this ability power rate, like Hyperion. I'm not worried about hitting him. I'm worried about that power gain that he's got, right? Dragon Man, same thing. MCoC, same thing. Sorcerer Supreme, so on and so forth, right? Doctor Strange. This is kind of what I'm talking about with the trending relationship between science and mystic. So you get that Wither debuff on. Now you've got the Wither debuff, physical vulnerability debuff. You've probably landed a couple heavies. You've got the exhaustion debuff on. If you spec right, you've got some more from the defense tree. And then when you land that SP2, each hit deals a burst of, oh, what's that? 1,397 physical damage per unique debuff. Those are some nice multipliers that are going to come in. And that's why in the beginning, I know a lot of folks thought his damage wasn't very good, but you had to really see the full piece of the puzzle, all the pieces of the puzzle put together. And for me, that includes the signature ability. So this was a lot. I hope you're able to follow. If not, I've put out a SIG ability video on him. I'm very sure that I will get a rank 3, probably a rank 4 video on him at some point in the not too distant future. You put all of that together, I think you have a top shelf champion. I don't think you need the anti-venom synergy. I really don't. I want to test this. I would like to see it more. I want to do it myself and then present that to the rankings team. But right now, trending, I truly believe that with the high sig, and we'll give him the high sig designation, right? We'll put the high sig emoji on him. If you get the high sig on Miguel, you have yourself a top shelf champion. The ability to handle these power gains, the lack of getting any sort of buffs at all, which, and I know when I first heard that, I was like, that's a good thing. It ends up being a good thing the way this works out. Being able to pause the debuffs that you're placing when you trigger a dexterity. And then all of these debuffs you can place, you have some power control, and then what ends up being a really nice source of damage with the ruptures, and they're replicating themselves or not being consumed. And then a really, really tasty SP2 because of all these debuffs you've placed on, some of which are increasing the physical vulnerability of the defender. It just adds up to an absolutely delicious package. Very excited about this guy. And I look forward to, I think, proving to myself and to the rankings team, and hopefully to you, that he does deserve to be in the top shelf. And hopefully we're seeing them, probably not in January, because I like to be conservative with this stuff, but most likely in February. So let me know what you thought. I had a lot of fun making this one, and it was fun for me to be able to go way more in depth on the champions that I often find myself wanting to talk about in the rankings videos, but the tier list video, but that takes so long. I'm aware of the length of it, and I'm actually trying to decrease the length of it. And so I'm hoping for a couple of things here. One is to kind of let you get a more in-depth knowledge on mine, the ranking teams thinking about this is where the game seems to be headed. There are some reasons for our increases and decreases in the rankings. And then also as a way to hopefully shorten the actual tier list video a little bit, maybe we can talk about a few more champions or just make it shorter in general. And then, like I said, get this more in-depth knowledge on these champions. I had an absolute blast doing it, and I realized and I remembered how much I like She-Hulk. That was a really good exercise. Let me know what you think, though. I would really appreciate your insights and whether this was enjoyable and something you're interested in seeing continue to happen on a monthly basis, along with the tier ranking system. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. I hope you either learned something, were entertained, or even better, a little bit of both. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.